Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jacob Rodriguez, and this is my video diary number 2 for my Communications 4310 class. So I'm going to begin with the first question, which states, what is critical theory? How do we use critical theory to understand oppressive circumstances in the workplace? How do we understand power, hegemony, concerted control? And I'm going to explain my understanding of those concepts. So first off, critical theory was based on the work of Karl Marx and is a field of inquiry or an assessment of society and culture, and an assessment of society and culture. It started being used to study organizations in the early 1970s. According to the notes, it is said to be all about the power. Those who don't have it want it. Critical theorists view organizations as places where the dominant group, like owners and managers, elevate their interests above subordinate groups. This would include workers. That'd be an example of a subordinate group. Ideologies are values and beliefs of a dominant group, whereas hegemony would essentially be the way the subordinate group enacts those values. An example of hegemony might be the way the media, to an extent, controls what opinions that people form, that the public form. When members of an organization create their own values, they are more likely to follow those values. Concerted control, to follow them. Concerted control, this would usually occur in an organization where participation by the group members is welcome. So next, we were told to share our thoughts on the Emma Watson video from chapter 6. She's certainly very passionate about her cause. Her rhetoric leads me to believe that she has a deep understanding of the issues. At one point, she says that she realized that fighting for women's rights has often become synonymous with man-hating. And this kind of surprised me because it really showed me that not only did she understand her cause, she also understood how other people looked at her cause and how it affects people. And she really had a good insight as to what people looked at her cause as, how they approached it. And I thought that was very important when you have an issue to see how other people are understanding your issue, because that allows you to properly communicate to them. I definitely agree with her goals of equality and wanting those things for women. So next was to read Workplace Culture of Fear. It was an article, and talk about how the article highlights the need to understand organizational culture and the importance of understanding the critical theory's perspective as an employee. The article gives examples of really bad organizational culture, one of which is the behavior of the ex-Rutgers basketball coach, men's basketball coach. His name was Mike Rice, and he was fired for the way he treated his players. He would curse at them, use profane, language all the time when speaking to them, talk down to them. He would throw things during practice. The coach obviously did not understand the importance of critical theory. He should have been more ethical in his approach to coaching, and he should have created a more humane workplace. So next, we were to watch how Netflix changes corporate culture. What is unique about Netflix? Talk about what's unique about Netflix after watching that. Where do leaders in the organization place importance? And talk about which critical perspective helps me to understand the culture of Netflix. I thought it was very interesting. The leaders placed importance on values and skills opposed to just words. Certainly a different approach. A couple of their perspectives stood out. They believed in treating employees with respect, and they did this by treating them as adults. They also believed in hiring the best people and expecting the best results from those individuals. This really shows a lot about how they approach things and why they've been successful as a company. In the lesson learned case study, what was the ultimate lesson? How do you see organizational culture and critical theories intersecting to assist with your understanding of communication in organizations thus far? The lesson was that even the most successful companies have flaws in culture. In this case, we explore the management woes of Silicon Valley Operations, who is a huge company in the semiconductor industry. The company's values included results, orientation, and trust. Yet one of the managers, Leon, wanted to withhold information about a communication strategy. This leads me to believe that critical theory being implemented has a large effect on the actual culture of an organization, and not just the values and culture that the organization claims to have. The next question is, have you ever been in a situation where you did not represent yourself accurately when applying and interviewing for a job? So I can't really say that I have. I've worked for my company, Southern Glazers, for almost 10 years since I was about 19 or 20 years old. Before that, I was with HEB. I was just a guy who went in the parking lot and got carts and bagged groceries. So back then, I was 16 when I got that job. I didn't feel the need to lie to get it or to be uh, untruthful to any extent. Nor did I when I first applied for my company because I was just a stocker at that point. This was before I went into sales and management. So no, I can't say that I've ever been in that type of situation where I had to, you know, be untruthful to when interviewing for a job. To that point, the next question is, have you ever been hired by an organization and they misrepresented your role in the company? The closest thing I can think of is when I first got the current position that I'm in. I was a merchandiser. I used to stock the shelves, and I thought that being in sales was just this awesome party because we, as a company, we're an alcohol company, liquor, wine, and beer. So I thought to be a sales rep, I would be allowed to go to all these events and go to all these parties. And while those things are, a part of the job, they're just a very small part, and there's not nearly as much partying as I thought there would be. There's a lot more logistics to it, especially as I've gotten into management. Very much 90% logistics. But I felt like when I interviewed for the position, they made it seem like a lot more fun and a lot less of the grunt work than it ended up being. So discuss the reasons why applicants may embellish their application materials. I personally have interviewed a bunch of people, and I find that they often embellish things on a resume to make themselves look like the person they think that we want as an organization. I've had people say that they were great problem solvers. When I asked them to go into detail, one gentleman told me that at the bar he worked at, he often handled problems really well and often. So I asked him to give me an example, and he couldn't really give me an example of a major problem that he helped to fix, and he had been in that role for several years. So it was apparent to me that he had just lied. He put something on his application to make him sound like a more desirable candidate. What perception would a potential employer have of you after viewing the results from Google searching your name? Have you ever searched your name, and how often do you search your name? Is the information accurate? I would say that a potential employer would have difficulty finding much information on me. My name is Jacob Rodriguez. Both names are extremely common, my first and my last name. I don't get on social media much. I have an Instagram, but I don't get on Facebook or any other platforms. So I don't think it'd be easy to track down information specifically on me. This question actually prompted me to go online and search for myself, and I couldn't find myself. Even when I typed in my Instagram profile, I couldn't find myself because I now live in Houston, but I'm from San Antonio, and I know that the IP address that I'm using to log on is here in Houston, so it's searching for Jacob Rodriguez in Houston, and it's not picking up the Jacob Rodriguez that is me, that's from San Antonio, and most of my online history would be from San Antonio. So yeah, it was very interesting. So next, we're going to discuss what are our thoughts about, or my thoughts about, the recruitment practices at Bell South. Do you believe this gives an accurate impression of what you could expect if you were to work for this organization? I know I talked to a few members of the class. We were having trouble with the link. I was able to find a little bit of information on Bell South, formerly Southwestern Bell. In the 1970s, a man named Arthur Parham sued Bell South, and he was upset that they didn't offer him a job after he received a letter stating that due to his background, he was not going to be offered a job. They couldn't offer him the position anymore. He had really poor grades in school, graduated towards the bottom of his class. He had also been terminated from his previous 2 jobs. They used that information to decide that they didn't want to hire him. I thought this was very interesting. I'd certainly feel like I was under a microscope if I was working for Southwestern Bell or Bell South. If that's how they go about recruiting candidates, I can only imagine what it's like to be part of their company and working in their organization. So next, as you are reading Chapter 8 and then reviewing the PowerPoint slides, read the case study, Navigating the Limits of a Smile. And after this, we talk about how students should apply both organizational assimilation processes and structuration theory to this case study, which presents opportunities for both for a nuanced application of both. And what's one question that you still feel needs to be addressed in this case? So I read the case study. I'm going to start with structuration theory. State structures created through an individual's daily action. In this case, an example of this would be Cassie agreeing to participate in the activities, such as the games that she felt uncomfortable with. And her agreeing to participate led to the frustration that she felt about her job and her own company. Her actions kind of fed into the way she was feeling and caused those things. Next would be organizational assimilation, how well the new member adapts to norms of behavior and adopts new attitudes valued by the organization. And I thought Cassie adapted well at the beginning. She certainly grew frustrated as time went on, ultimately leading to a breakdown after an uncomfortable situation with an older male passenger. I was very curious what Cassie's ultimate decision was on resolving the situation. Did she talk to the gentleman? Did she go above his manager, her manager Tim's head? I'm very curious how that ended. Discuss the reasons why a superior might deliberately engage in strategic ambiguity. Discuss the reasons why a subordinate might do the same, and give some details about both. So strategic ambiguity is when contextual clues are purposely omitted from communication. It allows for several different interpretations for the receiver. First off, this could be very effective for a superior because it might lead the receiver to interpret the message based on their own beliefs and therefore believe that their superior has those same beliefs. This perceived similarity can be very positive. If I think that my boss has the same beliefs as me, it might make me drawn to my boss a little bit more and have more positive feelings towards my manager. A subordinate, on the other hand, might exercise strategic ambiguity to mislead their superior. There could be a situation where they leave out details so that they don't incriminate themselves. So there are certainly negative and positives to this. Next was to think of an instance where you or a friend may have practiced upward distortion. Why did you or your friend engage in this communicated behavior, and what was the ultimate result of your chosen action? Most recently, my brother and I, we couldn't figure out what to get my mother for Mother's Day. We had ideas, but they hadn't come to fruition yet. At the last minute, we decided to get her like a day bed or a sofa bed that was going to be for a spare room, my old bedroom that she has as her kind of office at the house. We printed a picture of it and told my mom that we wanted to get her opinion before buying it, when in reality it was just so late that we thought of the idea that we didn't have time to purchase anything for her. And we did this just to make her feel better about the situation. And I just kind of a little white lie there. So next was, what role does trust play in the superior-subordinate relationship? I think trust plays a huge role, and it's something both parties need to practice to develop a strong relationship. Whitner suggests 5 categories. I believe the most important is behavioral integrity, which involves always telling the truth and keeping promises. So lastly is discuss the role of immediacy in the supervisor-subordinate relationship. Why is acknowledging immediacy important? Immediacy is any communication that indicates interpersonal warmth and closeness. There are several reasons, including expressing confidence in the subordinate's ability, and demonstrates a willingness to assist the subordinate. So thank you everybody for your time. This was video diary number 2, and I look forward to reading everyone else's video diaries. Thank you.